Hi, I'm Eric Cottrell of Lynn, Massachusetts. I get my weekly radio news on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in beautiful Montreal.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report for Sunday, November the 17th of 2024. You're listening to CKUT. My name's Sheldon. I'm here with Gilles. We thank you for tuning in. We are here every Sunday with 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio. We have a lot of different stories from various locations around the world this week, as usual. But first off, we'd like to respond to an email we received from one of our listeners. We thank Lee Mitchell down in South Carolina. He heard us talking about the changes to the ARRL Wavescan program that Adventist World Radio was breaking away from that. And he was asking, where will he be able to find Wavescan? So, Gilles, I think you've tracked down some information.
Yeah, there's a website called Podomatic, Podomatic, Podomatic.com. That's where they are posting now the show called Wavescan. It's called Wavescan by Ray Robinson. And so you go to podomatic.com/podcasts/Wavescan. That's where all the shows are. There's 8 shows online right now. And moving forward, all the shows are going to be there. So this is the new spot. We're going to share the link in the YouTube channel and everywhere, even on the IRR Facebook group, so that everybody knows where to get the new Wavescan shows.
Okay, that's great. And, that's a good tip for anybody listening to this show. If you do have any questions about things we've talked about on the show, or any questions in general about radio that you think we might be able to help you out with, best way is by an email, radioreport@yahoo.com. And we do like to hear from our listeners. So again, thanks to Lee for sending in that question. So we have some more stories today about changes in the radio world out there, and they're coming in fast and furious, and we have a few of them here today. First off, we're starting out with a story from a new source of information that we just found out about via Tony Pavick, one of our listeners out in Hope, British Columbia. It's a site called Radio and Music Pro, RAMP, and they had a story up this week. KFI Los Angeles, which is on 640 AM in Los Angeles, axes its entire news department. RAMP has learned that News Talk, KFI AM 640 Los Angeles, has disbanded its entire 22-person news department, including longtime news director and 30-year station veteran Chris Little, along with anchor Joe Kwan, reporters Chris Adler and Corbin Carson, and editor Aaron Ben Mock, amid rumblings that iHeart's 24/7 news network will now supply content. Little confirmed this mass layoff in an Instagram post. These departures follow last Friday's exit of longtime KFI program director Robin Bertolucci and her husband, Don Martin, Executive Vice President of Programming for iHeart Sports and Program Director for KLAC AM 570 LA Sports. So this is kind of on the equivalent of WCBS in New York, who let go and change the actual format of their all-news radio station. We don't know exactly yet what KFI is going to be doing. We have to look into that, but it seems very similar to what happened with WCBS in New York.
You know what's weird with that is that iHeart has a lot of financial difficulties, but yet they're kind of killing some of the best stations that are still making a lot of cash, and you're wondering why. I know maybe they just don't want to be in radio anymore. I don't know, but they should keep the ones that make money at least. This is very weird. Yeah. This is a weird move, honestly. So we have in our next story, Beasley moves Tampa FM station to the cloud. Is this the future of radio? This is via Radioworld. Beasley Media Group has moved a 50 kilowatt FM station in Florida onto the Super Hi-Fi platform. The station is WPBB 98.7 The Shark in Tampa. The move marks the first deployment of this technology on a 50,000 watt FM primary signal, according to Super Hi-Fi. The entire station will now be capable of full remote operations from a laptop literally anywhere in the world and providing unprecedented flexibility and efficiency. It said humans will program the station music and host, but that Super Hi-Fi AI-enabled cloud-based system will be used throughout the programming, management, voice tracking, updating, and delivery workflow. The entire station has moved to the cloud, with Super Hi-Fi's enterprise-grade stream delivered directly to a modern, optimized transmitter-based playout system, the supplier said. It describes its platform as providing a new way to deliver radio. It quoted Beasley CEO Caroline Beasley saying the technology enables us to deliver our broadcast in a cloud-to-ground approach that streamlines operations and prepares the stations for the future. 2 weeks ago, as we reported, Super Hi-Fi announced that Odyssey is using the operating system on an FM signal in Denver. It called that the first commercial FM exclusively scheduled and automated with artificial intelligence in the cloud. So, Super Hi-Fi, that's the new word to learn today, guys.
Yeah, we decided to take a look and find out exactly what a Super Hi-Fi is, and it's quite simple to go to superhifi.com, and we pulled this explanation for you. We exist to help radically transform radio. We started Super Hi-Fi with one belief, that radio matters. We kept hearing about all the challenges of the radio industry, and we wanted to do something about it. So we undertook a mission to contribute to an entirely new ecosystem of opportunities that radio companies can use to drive new content experiences, reduce operational complexity, lower costs, and grow revenue. The radio industry is changing right before our eyes. What's worked in the past just doesn't work anymore. It's a challenge unlike anything this industry has seen before. But we see something different. We see this as a moment of transition, where the challenges of the old make way for the opportunities of the new, bringing along a bright, dynamic, and durable future for radio. So, every day, Super Hi-Fi is working together with our customers and partners to change the entire operational model for radio, to propel the industry forward, and to usher in an amazing new era. So let's get moving. Super Hi-Fi helps radio companies transform their business results by enabling them to take an entirely new operating approach to running their business. Super Hi-Fi's approach unlocks an entirely new way to staff and operate world-class radio stations at enterprise scale. Super Hi-Fi is investing massively in new products and services for the radio ecosystem to help change the trajectory of the industry. Super Hi-Fi partners with the best companies in radio to deliver end-to-end solutions that support your business. This was not a paid commercial announcement. Just reading their hype on their website. So I don't know. What do you think of this?
I think, you know what? They don't want to mention AI. So they're just calling it Super Hi-Fi. We've got a new system, Super Hi-Fi, from the cloud. Well, anything from the cloud sounds more like AI than anything else. I don't know. And then, we grew up with Hi-Fi. Super Hi-Fi for me would sound more like an improved quality audio, which I don't think that's what it is. It's something else.
Yeah, it's attaching a whole new definition to a very old term, hi-fi. High fidelity was what hi-fi was in the past. Now it seems to be something totally different. So they seem to have convinced a couple stations to take the plunge and they keep hyping about, how great this is going to be and how it's going to lower costs, which will certainly attract attention. What's it going to do to people, real live people? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with super hi-fi and whether it is actually super or not.
Yeah, sounds anything but local radio with your local personalities. So what's going on with our sun? Well, our sun is active, but it's funny because there's one particular sunspot that is really out there to produce an X flare. It could happen at any time, but it's been going across the surface for days without doing anything. So they called it the sunspot that refuses to explode, which is interesting. So it gave us some really good conditions because the solar activity is still high. The solar flux is now down to 147, which is low compared to what we had. But for several days, it was above 200. We had some amazing conditions. Sunspot number is 98. And, if it continues like this, we have some good conditions in general up to the higher frequencies. I had the best Radio Thailand signal, I think, ever in my lifetime of listening to that station this week on 13750 at 0 UTC. So it shows how conditions are just amazing. And hopefully, if it doesn't explode, it's going to give us several more days of quiet conditions and good conditions. So let's hope that it doesn't explode. And if it does, that could all change in an instant. But to witness all of this, you got to turn on a radio and listen.
This is Tony Straka from Lansdale, Pennsylvania. The International Radio Report presents 30 minutes of news, information, and commentary on developments in the world of radio every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
In our next story, radio, a trusted daily staple among farmers and ranchers. So this is via Radio Inc. In rural America, AM/FM plays a continued vital role in how news, information, and entertainment is consumed. Now data is showing how radio is a staple of daily routines for farmers and ranchers, earning high levels of trust in the agricultural community. A study by Katz Radio Group found that nearly 8 in 10 farmers and ranchers listen to AM/FM regularly, with 72% incorporating radio in their daily routines, a rate notably higher than the average 51% for U.S. adults. Farmers cite radio's portability and accessibility as an ideal companion throughout their busy days, whether on the job or during downtime. AM/FM radio's flexibility aligns with the needs of agricultural community, seamlessly fitting into both work and leisure moments on and off the farm. Agriculture news radio, unsurprisingly, resonates strongly, with 8 in 10 farmers and ranchers agreeing that stations they listen to truly care about their community, a sentiment 10 points higher than that of the average adult. Perhaps most importantly among Katz findings, radio emerges as the most trusted media source among farmers, with 81% considering it trustworthy or very trustworthy, beating out newspapers. 75%, magazines, 64%, and television, 61%, by decent margins. Social media ranks firmly at the bottom, with 37% of farmers and ranchers trusting it as a source. This can be compiled on Katz research into AG workers and radio from 2023, which found AM/FM is their preferred audio medium. 81% were found to use over-the-air radio, while streaming, 64%, podcasts, 27%, and Sirius XM, 16%, all trailed behind. The demographic also represents one of the most loyal and dependent on AM radio, greatly affected by the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. In October 2023, a coalition of agricultural and livestock groups, including the Independent Beef Association of North Dakota, National Grange, U.S. Cattlemen's Association, and others, sent a joint letter to Congress advocating for the passage of the AM Act. For advertisers, radio offers an opportunity to reach farmers and ranchers effectively with its strong connection to local communities and high trustworthiness. Radio stands out as a brand-safe environment, especially in comparison to social media. You know, I'm not surprised for one reason. Ever go somewhere there's a lot of farming? There's a lot of land there, and it's huge, and it's often the places where the other types of modern technology are not necessarily working the best, and radio does its job there because it works, especially they're talking about AM radio, which covers huge distances in this case.
Yeah, a lot of the AM radio stations too, particularly in smaller cities and out in rural areas, do include things like farm reports, pricing on crops, that sort of thing, which is obviously vital to farmers and ranchers. So I can see that they're really behind keeping those radio stations on the air. The concern right now that a lot of people are talking about is whether this AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which was very close to getting passed, now with the U.S. government changing hands, it may get sort of pushed to the back burner or completely forgotten about altogether. So groups like this, I think, should probably stay active and keep lobbying the new government coming in to say, hey, you know, you were ready to approve this before the old guys were, but you know, you're the new guys now. Maybe you need to look at this. Yep. So, the battle's not done yet. I mean, they have to keep pushing on and leaning on this to get it passed. Our next story is about some more layoffs. This time it's via Radio Inc. Cumulus Media joins iHeart in industry layoffs this week. Cumulus Media has joined iHeart in the election week layoffs ahead of the holiday season. Cumulus markets affected so far include Indianapolis and central Pennsylvania, as iHeart's cuts hit more than 24 clusters. In Indianapolis, Cumulus cut ties with multiple industry veterans, including WZPL Program Director Jimmy Steele, who moved to the role in 2022 after serving as operations manager for Cumulus Mobile. WFMS morning co-host Kevin Freeman is also gone after more than 3 decades at the cluster. He's joined by WJJK afternoon host Laura Steele, promotions coordinator Jennifer Trevino, and members of the sales team. In central Pennsylvania, Cumulus saw the departure of WARM program director Dave Russell, along with personalities AJ Cobain, Venetia Stevenson, and Gary Sutton. Almost a week later, we are still learning more names in the iHeart RIF as well, affecting both market and regional leaders. Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin Senior Vice President of Programming Patrick Davis is gone after 2 decades. Additional management level cuts include Tampa Director of Sales Jeff Croy and Phoenix Senior Director of Entertainment Marketing Kelly Manders. These restructuring moves, part of iHeart's reported broader effort to streamline operations and save $150 million, have left a considerable impact across the country. So it continues to spread, more and more people, many senior people in many cases being the ones to get their notices. So all leading up to reducing costs, probably reducing some services as well on many of these radio stations. So we'll keep an eye out on further developments, and I'm sure there's more to come as we head to the end of the year.
Yeah, it's getting tough on the radio industry out there, for sure. In our next news, Radio Erena, Eritrea's voice of hope under threat. This is MENAFN, the Peninsula, Agence France Presse. Paris, in Eritrea, one of the world's most repressive countries, a tiny independent radio station broadcasting from a Paris apartment has become a beacon of hope, transmitting trusted news for the past 15 years from a studio tucked away in the French capital's 13th district. Radio Erena Eritrea's only independent media, is now under threat and risks going off the air due to lack of funding. In the span of a year, the Radio Erena team has shrunk from 6 to 3 people, including 2 experienced journalists who fled to France. In 2001, the Eritrean government decided to close down all private media, says Emmanuel Guimai Bata, editor-in-chief of Radio Erena. Since then, only the voice of the state has been heard, mainly propaganda. A handful of media outlets are trying to resist by broadcasting from abroad, the vast majority of them linked to Eritrean political forces. Radio Erena is the only independent and apolitical outlet, according to its team. Radio Erena broadcasts less than 2 hours of programming a day in Tigrinya and Arabic, Eritrea's 2 main languages. Relying on a network of correspondents based outside the country, Radio Erena, which means Our Eritrea in Tigrinya, has become a lifeline for audiences back home. It is difficult to estimate the number of listeners given the limited access to the country. Germany's Deutsche Welle Akademie says in 2017 that 520,000 people in Eritrea listen to Radio Erena at least once a week, out of a population of around 3.5 million. Its waves are often jammed, according to Reporters Without Borders, which helped found the independent media outlet in 2009. Eritreans want to know what's happening on the other side of the world, as well as outside their borders, particularly in northern Ethiopia, where their army has fought alongside Ethiopian federal forces against Tigrayan rebels, says Bata. Journalist Emmanuel Grimay works on a program recording in the radio studio of Erena Radio Eritrea International on October 31st, 2024. State media outlets give the impression that everything is still fine, says Marc Lavergne of France CNRS Scientific Research Center. Press freedom is non-existent in Eritrea. Only North Korea is at the same level. According to this year's Press Freedom Index by Reporters Without Borders, North Korea ranks 177th out of 180 countries. Eritrea is ranked last, according to RSF. The country is notorious for detaining journalists longer than any other country in the world. Lavergne described Eritrea as an extremely tightly controlled totalitarian system. Only a handful of loyalists to Isaias Afwerki's regime have access to the outside world, the internet, and the international press, he said. Over the past years, authorities in Eritrea have sought to disrupt the work of Radio Erena. In 2012, officials accused the radio station of inciting its listeners to commit acts of violence against Eritrean government representatives, according to Reporters Without Borders. We were unable to broadcast for nearly 8 months, says Bata. The journalists fled Eritrea in 2009 after working for several years at the Ministry of Information, where he says he was forced to comply with the propaganda machine. Even in France, he does not feel completely safe, saying he frequently receives online threats. Maxence Peniguet, director of operations of Radio Erena, pointed to numerous cyber attacks seeking to cripple its operations. Worst of all, the outlet's funds are drying up. The financial resources from private donors and U.S. and European NGOs are no longer sufficient to cover the cost, while finding new donors proves very complicated given multiplying crises around the world, says Peniguet. Without fresh funding, they would lose nearly half of our budget for 2025, he said, adding he fears that Radio Erena could fall silent in a few months. So let's hope not. It seems to be a very important and independent voice that is required and needed, especially in a country where it seems like freedom and freedom of press and freedom of expression is non-existent, basically.
It's pretty bad when you're ranked lower than North Korea.
Pretty much.
I think everybody would probably think that North Korea's got to be the worst in that scale, but no, it seems that Eritrea is unfortunately the top affected country in the world with respect to censored broadcasting and propaganda and what have you. So hopefully they can keep that radio station going.
So we have upcoming ham radio contests.
We start off with the Bulgarian Federation of Radio Amateurs. They are holding their Bulgarian DX contest at 1200 Zulu November 16th to 1200 Zulu November 17th. The bands are 80 through 10 meters, and that one is both the CW and SSB modes.
The Austrian Experimental Transmitter Association is conducting the All-Austrian 160-meter contest, 1600 Zulu to 2359 Zulu, November 16th. The band is 160 meters and CW only.
The American Radio Relay League has its upcoming ARRL Sweepstakes contest, SSB, 2100 Zulu November 16th to 0300 Zulu November 18th. The contest objective is to support amateur self-training in radio communications, including improving amateur operating skills, conducting technical investigations, and intercommunicating with other amateurs. Stations in the U.S. and Canada, including territories and possessions, exchange information with as many other U.S. and Canadian stations as possible. All the major HF bands, 160 through 10 meters, no work bands, and this one is a SSB contest.
Réseau des émetteurs français is conducting its 160-meter contest, 1700 Zulu to 2359 Zulu, November 16th. This is the 160-meter band, and it's CW only.
And finally, the South American Contest Club is holding its South American Integration Contest, CW, 1800 Zulu November 16th to 2100 Zulu November 17th. The bands are 80 meters through 10 meters, and it's CW as well.
And with this, we are out of time.
We do thank you for tuning in. We can be reached by email if you have any questions or comments, radioreport@yahoo.com. Our show is live streaming every week and also archived at ckut.ca. We have our Facebook group, International Radio Report. We invite you to join us there. If you want to catch the show on YouTube, you can do so on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@IRR, and our X account @IRRCKUT, and we invite you to follow us there. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you'll do so again next week for our next edition of the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
This is Radio Moscow World Service. At 12 hours UTC, we'll continue broadcasting in the 13, 16, 19, 25, and 41-meter band short waves. That's Radio Moscow World Service in the 13, 16, 19, 25, and 41-meter band short waves. After the Kremlin chimes on the hour, please stand by for the news and other features.